Hello, everybody. Welcome to Network Configuration Manager's free training. So let me quickly walk you through the agenda. We'll be talking about the need for a configuration management tool, and I'll also be talking about the requirements for installing Network Configuration Manager in your network environment. After which, I'll be talking about device discovery and templates. We'll also be talking about credentials and how to configure the proper credentials. And then we'll be talking about configuration backup and upload, after which we'll be discussing change management, firmware vulnerability management, and disaster recovery. And during the session, if you have any questions, you can type out that question and submit it. This you can do using the chat panel. And we have our panelists who will be able to help you out with the answers. So, why is the tool needed for configuration management? With the growing business needs, a lot of configuration changes take place on a daily basis. For example, let's say there are like so many employees, you need to know who has access to which configuration and what kind of change has been made to a configuration. So, all of that details can be recorded using a proper configuration tool like NCM. So, with the help of a tool like NCM, you can detect changes in real time. You can also stay compliant to policies like HIPAA, SOX, PCI, and also internal standards that are required to maintain security across your organization. So, in a nutshell, you can streamline the whole maintenance process of your network configuration management. So, what exactly does Network Configuration Manager do? So, I have listed out some of the important features in Network Configuration Manager. So, we have scheduling feature, which is very useful in helping you schedule configuration tasks. So, all those configuration tasks that require multiple working on. So, what you can do is you can rely on scheduling. We also have real time change detection, which will help you detect what kind of changes are taking place in your network environment. We also have configuration comparison, which is useful in helping you see what the differences are in between two different configurations. We also have user based access control or role based access control. So, with the help of role based access control, you can achieve operator admin sort of requirements. Let me tell you the minimum system requirements for NCM to work in your environment. So we need a 2 gigahertz dual core processor, a 4 GB RAM, 100 GB storage, PostgreSQL, MSQL, and NCM works on both Windows and Linux. The above given specifications are for an environment with 50 devices only. If your environment has more than 50 devices, you can refer to the system requirements that you can see on the screen. So, before moving on, I'd like to tell you that this presentation will be sent to you along with the recording in like 2 to 3 working days. So the ports and protocols required for NCM to function properly are the protocols required are SSH, Telnet, SCP, TFTP, SFTP, and we also support REST API. The ports that are needed are 69 TFTP, 22 SSH SCP, 514 syslog, 13306 Postgre database, and we also have HTTPS, which is 8060. So let me tell you the concept behind device discovery. So generally, what will happen is NCM's discovery engine will send out SNMP requests to all the nearby devices that have SNMP enabled in them. Once these devices receive this request, what these devices will do is it will send a sysobject ID in return, which will be received by the discovery engine. Upon receiving the sysobject ID, NCM will try to match the received sysobject ID with a default or a custom sysobject ID. If a match is found, the device will be added and associated with a corresponding device template. If a match is not found, the device will not be added, but you can add the device manually. For this SNMP uses, the device discovery procedure typically happens with SNMP profiles V1, V2, and V3. So let's get into the first topic, which is device discovery. We have two major types of discovery. One is SNMP discovery, and the other one is manual addition. There is also a third type, which is common to both of these discovery methods, which is the CSV file import. So if you have a file with bulk devices that are in a particular format, for example, you can see on the screen. So it has to be a host name separated by a comma, followed by device template name, series, and model. So if all the devices are listed in this format, what you can do is you can import a CSV file in bulk. So yeah, with the help of SNMP discovery, you can either discover an IP address or a range of IPs. So let me show this to you in the UI. So this is the UI of Network Configuration Manager. In order to discover devices, what you can do is click on Settings and click on Discovery. This will take you to Network Discovery tab, and you can decide whether you want to go for a single IP, or if you want to go for a range of IPs, or if you want to import a CSV file. So I'm going to be providing with a IP range. Once I provide an IP range, I can select the credentials from this list. So I'm just going to give a public credential list, and I'm going to click on Discover. Immediately, I'll be able to see the status of my discovery in this tab, and it will show me how many devices have been discovered and how many are still being processed. So if we wait for some more time, we'll be able to see all the devices that are getting discovered. So here is a live status of that. So we can see that so many devices have been discovered. So once the devices are discovered, it will show 100% as the status, and you can get into it, and you can check what has happened after the discovery process. So here you can see that certain devices have not been reachable. So in that case, what you can do is, if you're sure of the credentials, you can click those devices from this tab, and you can give add to inventory option. So once you give add to inventory option, it'll ask you for the details about the devices. And if you're able to provide the details, this device will be added to the inventory. So this you can rely on if you're not able to reach a device. Otherwise, there'll be a green tick mark which will denote the device has been added or it already exists in the inventory. So yeah, that's pretty much it about SNMP device discovery method. Going back to the inventory, I'll show you how you can discover a device using the manual method. So here you can see the plus sign, right? Just click on it, and it will ask you for the details such as host name, vendor, what device template I need to associate this device. And we also have other questions like series, model, etc. And also you can import the devices from a text file by giving this option. So yeah, this is pretty much it about manual discovery. And the tag option is optional. So this is to identify devices that belong to a certain geographical location. So you can choose from the drop down, and you can also opt for no tags option. So once you click on add, this device will be added to the inventory manually. So this is pretty much it about manual device discovery. So, some of the errors you might encounter during the discovery process are: device might be reachable, but the SNMP community is also correct, but the device is not getting added. It might be because the SNMP might be disabled in those devices, and sometimes it can even be an incorrect SNMP read community. So, please check all those details, and you can try again. We also have another possible failure, which is due to device subject ID not being mapped with any of the device template. So what you can do is you can go to the subject ID finder by going to settings and add a subject ID to the device template. Sometimes a device template might not be available in NCM for a certain device type. You can add or clone an existing or from an existing device template, or you can contact NCM support. So, what are device templates and what are they used for? In an organization, there will be a lot of devices. Some of the devices will belong to Juniper vendor, and just an example. And some of the devices will belong to Cisco and so on. There are so many vendors, and it's practically impossible for you to remember the configuration commands for all of these devices that belong to different vendors. So to make your job easier, we have device templates, which will have a set of configuration commands, and you can configure the device templates right there. And for devices that share a common set of configuration commands, you can create a device template and add those devices to that particular device template. So we have device template configuration commands for configuration backup, configuration upload, enable, disable syslog change detection, and fetching hardware information. So yeah, that's pretty much it about device templates. Let me show this to you in the UI. Click on config automation and go to device templates. So here you'll be able to see all the device templates that are available, and on the devices you'll be able to see the number of devices that fall under a certain device template. So if you want to clone an existing device template, you just have to click on the clone option. That will give you an additional option to go further and edit something that is similar to this device template that you've chosen. You can also export a device template, make changes to the configuration commands, and then import it back. So yeah, I'm just gonna. So if you want to create a new device template, you have to click on the plus symbol. So that is gonna ask you certain questions, and you might have to answer those, give those details, and then you can create the device template. For now, I'm gonna clone an existing device template. So let's say I'm gonna clone the Cisco iOS router. So I'm gonna click on clone option, and I'm gonna give a name, and I need to give other details like the OS type, the vendor, and also the device type. And I can click on next. And here is where I get to edit the configuration commands for different configuration activities. So I can give the configuration command here, the prompt, the timeout value, also the line field, and if a prompt action ID is required, I can give that as well from the dropdown. So here I can add any number of configuration commands and delete them as well. So this is available for different types of protocols. And I can also add a new protocol by clicking on the plus symbol. So once you're sure of this, you can click on next and you can provide this as object ID, the series name, model, etc. And in case you're not sure of this is subject ID, you can query the device, provide the host name, and that's going to help you uh, associate or add a certain device template to the subject ID. And then once you click on save, this particular device template will be saved and you will be able to see it by going to device templates. So we also have REST device templates for FortiGate, Palo Alto, Arista, pfSense, and HPE for now. So we are also working on providing REST device templates for more vendors. So under shared templates, you'll be able to see different templates shared by some of our users across the globe. And yeah, so that's all about device templates. Let's go to credentials. Some of the possible combinations of protocol for backup is what you can see on the screen right here. So we have SSH, Telnet, SSH, TFTP, Telnet, TFTP, SSH, SCP, SNMP, TFTP, SFTP, and REST API. So yeah, I'll show how credentials work theoretically. So let's take the example of SSH Telnet. NCM will establish a communication channel between itself and the device, and through this communication channel, NCM will send configuration backup commands. Upon receiving the configuration backup commands, the device will send a configuration in return through the same communication channel, which will be received by NCM and encrypted and stored in the database. So here's another example for SSH SCP where the file transfer happens using SCP protocol, whereas the configuration command will be sent through SSH protocol. So the transferred file will be received using an SCP server, and this will be encrypted and stored in the DB. Here's another example. And we also have an example for SNMP protocol where there won't be a communication channel. Instead, SNMP requests will be sent and file transfer will happen using TFTP, which will be encrypted and stored in the database. So, yeah, moving on. Might ask how to provide credentials. So it's easy. So the left hand side, you can see the screenshot of a telnet or a putty, and on the right hand side, you can see NCM's credential tab. So whatever credential you're gonna give to log into a device using a telnet or a putty remains the same, even if it comes to logging into a device using NCM. So if a credential is not needed, You don't have to give that particular credential. For example, in this device, enable username is not required, so you can skip that. So we have other examples for credentials, which shows how you can go directly to enable mode. Here is a 3com router example where only the login name, password, and prompt are required. So once you give the credentials, you can save and test them. So once you save and test them, you will be able to understand whether the credentials are valid. So how you can do that is, once you give save and test, if your credentials are valid, a backup of that particular device will be taken. So if the backup is successful, it typically means your credentials are valid. If not, you'll have to recheck your credentials. So to provide credentials, go to inventory, and next to each of the devices, you'll be able to see a key icon. Just click on the key icon. This denotes the credentials. So under the key icon, you can see the primary, additional, and REST API based credentials. So whatever option fits for you, you can give that option, and you can provide the details such as the prompt, password, etc. If you have a pre-created, if you want to, like, if you have a credential profile created for a certain device, you can choose from the drop down. In order to create a new profile, you just have to click on new. So where this is useful is, for example, some 100 devices will share the same set of credentials. So for all of those 100 devices, you don't have to sit and configure manually using the credential method. Instead, you can click on the new profile option, create the credential profile, which is common to all of those devices. And from the drop down, you can select that credential profile in case you find a device that suits the credential profile that you're going to apply. So, yeah, that's pretty much it about credentials. So, let's move on to the next topic, configuration backup. So, we have instant configuration backup, real time change detection, and scheduled configuration backup. So instantly, you can select multiple devices in bulk, or you can select a single device, click the three dot icon, and take a backup of that configuration. So this is how you do it. Just choose the devices you want a backup for, and from the just click the three dot icon and give backup option. Once you give that, the backup will happen immediately. So the second method is real-time change detection. So before going there, I'll let you know how scheduled backup works. So what you can do is you can choose the devices that require multiple backing up, and you can choose schedule option directly. So once you click on the schedule option, it will ask you for a schedule name, and you can choose the devices from the group here. So once you select the devices, it will ask you if you want to receive an email notification in case there's a failure during backup, or if uh, NCM has to exclude configuration difference from notification, or if you want to be notified if there is a change in the configuration. So you can get an email for any of these incidents, and you can provide the email notification ID and also the mail subject. And here you can provide the schedule time. If you want it to be a hourly schedule, you can give that option. If you want it to be a daily schedule, you can give uh, from which date you want the schedule to happen, and also at what time you want the schedule to take place. So once you click on save, you will be able to schedule the configuration backup process. So now let's move on to real-time change detection. So let me give you the theory behind it. So even if you're not physically present, NCM will watch our configurations for you. So let's say a user logs into a device and also makes some change and exits the device. This exit message will be sent in the form of syslog messages, because the syslog listener will enable these messages to be sent, and NCM will assume that there might have been a change that would have taken place. So what NCM will do is it will immediately take a backup of the configuration after the user exits, and it will check or compare the backup version with that of with the version that existed before the user logged in. So if there are any configuration changes detected, NCM will store the configuration in its DB. If there are no changes detected, then the configuration backup will be discarded. So how will you enable this? So it's pretty simple. Just go to the inventory, Click on the device for which you want to enable change detection. Click on the three dot icon and just give enable change detection. In the similar way, you can disable change detection as well. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So here you can see the enable change detection option and other details, logging level, etc. So yeah, similarly, you can also choose the device, the three dot icon, enable change detection, and sometimes you will get an error that it does not support syslog. So I'll discuss the problems you might encounter. So when you come across this message, it generally means syslog messages are not supported in this particular device model. So without syslog, you will not be able to use this feature properly. So you'll have to enable syslog by connecting to the device and by executing the enable syslog commands manually. You can also contact NCM support to help you enable syslog commands. So another error you might encounter is when the device and NCM support syslog, there will be mismatched ports. So you have to check whether the ports are not are proper, and you have to check whether the NCM syslog server is in running status by going to NCM server settings. So that's pretty simple. I'll just show this to you. Click on any device. Click on Okay, click on settings. Sorry, click on settings. Click on general settings and click on server settings. So for if you go there, you'll be able to see whether all the server statuses are proper. If not, you can stop the service and restart it. You will also be able to get the port information here. So we already saw scheduled backup, so I think we can move forward. So if there is a failure in the schedule, it might be because of credential. So make sure the credential is proper and try again. And you can also check whether the server settings are proper, like I just showed you. And if there is a huge configuration file to be transferred, it might cause a backup failure. So you can go to device template and extend the timeout value by going to the timeout settings. Sometimes the backup commands might be unsupported. You can edit the commands in device template or create a new device template by cloning the closest template. Let's move on to change management. With the help of NCM change management, you can see all the changes made to a device, and you can see who made the change, when the change was made, and what type of change was made. You can also get the historical change trend of a device. For example, from let's say from June to August, you want to check the data of the people who worked on configurations and who has made what kind of change. So, with the help of historical change trend of a device, that report will be very useful in helping you analyze how many changes have been carried out across your environment during a particular duration. And you will also be able to see the number of lines modified, deleted, and the number of lines added. So that's pretty much it about configuration change management. Go to the inventory, get into the device snapshot page by double clicking on a device, and you'll be able to see configuration changes that happen to this particular device that you've logged into, and how many are authorized, how many are unauthorized. You will be able to see each and every details. Click on that to see further information about what the difference is with the previous version, what has been modified in this case, and also what the difference between this configuration and the baseline version as well. So yeah, you'll be able to get that information. So another important feature in Network Configuration Manager is compare configurations. You can compare different versions of the same device, or you can compare different device configurations. So the color coded difference will be in green, purple, and red. Green denotes some of the lines have been added. Purple denotes some of the lines have been modified, and red denotes the lines that have been deleted. So I'll show this to you. Go to the inventory and click on the plus minus option that you can see. And from the LHS, you can choose any device that you want to compare against the RHS. And we have only two versions in this particular uh, device type. So here I'm going to choose a different version. And what will happen is it will show whether there have been any differences. So between these two, there are no similarities. So here you can see 9K lines have been modified. That's because these two devices show no similarities. But if you're gonna choose a different versions that belong to the same device, you'll be able to see number of devices that have been added, deleted, modified, etc. So yeah, this will be very useful in case you want to see what is wrong with the configuration that mimics a different configuration. And let's say there is configuration version 1 and configuration version 5. Version 1 shows no signs of problems. However, version 5, which is almost similar to version 1, is showing a lot of issues. So you can check them side by side and see what is wrong in version 5, which is and what's right in version 1. So yeah, for this analysis you can depend upon compare configurations feature. Next up is firmware vulnerability management. You can see all the vulnerabilities in your network. You can check the CVE details and also take the remediation methods immediately. You can also perform advanced CVE search and generate vulnerability reports. So, how this works is what NCM will do is it will have a data fetching um, feature. For example, there is this NIST database, right? So what NCM will do is it will fetch data from this global database NIST, and it will check all the devices present in its environment, and it'll see whether there are any vulnerabilities present. If there are vulnerabilities present, what NCM will do is it will list out those vulnerabilities along with the CVE ID. So once you click on the CVE ID, you can go into it and see what has to be done in order to rectify that particular vulnerability. So typically this happens at 2 a.m. by default. You can also give your own time of scheduling so that the sync happens at that particular time. So here you can see the firmware vulnerability option. Just click on that, and here you will be able to see the total vulnerabilities and how many of those vulnerabilities are critical, right? So here you can see all the CVE IDs listed, and under that ID, what remediation methods can be taken. So all of that will be available here. So if you click on expose devices, it will show you all the devices, and under each device, you will be able to see the vulnerabilities that are present. So once you click and go into it, you will be able to see the external link that will take you um, to the website that has the remediation for this particular vulnerability. And under version distribution, you'll be able to see the vendors under which you'll be able to see all the devices associated with certain vulnerabilities. So here you can see sync vulnerability, and you can set this time at which you want NCM to fetch data from NIST. You can also give update option now. There is also an advanced CVE search or global search option, which allows you to paste the vulnerability ID or whatever that is related to vulnerability, and allows you to go for an advanced search option. So yeah, that's it about vulnerabilities. Moving on, we have disaster recovery. So because of disasters, you will be able to face performance degradation on a long term and also face sudden network outages and security breaches. So you need to be sure that you are on the safer side. So some of these methods will help you stay prepared. So one is baseline configuration. So what is baseline configuration and why is it important? So let's say there is a sudden outage and you don't know which configuration file is the most stable one. In that case, what you can do is you can rely on baseline. So baseline is the label you give to a very stable configuration version. For example, let's say there are like 35 configuration versions, and version number 30 is the most stable version. What you can do is you can name it as the baseline version. So during times of disaster, you can simply um, go to upload option and click the baseline configuration to be uploaded. So go to the inventory, and here you'll be able to see all the network devices. And in order to make sure that a certain version is labeled as a stable version, you just have to click on that particular device, click on the three dot icon, and give label configuration option. And you can choose a label from this drop down, and this denotes that the chosen configuration version is the baseline version for this particular device. So in if you want to like upload this particular device in you just have to like click on the device and click the three dot icon, click the upload config option. Here you can see that configuration upload is not supported. So you need to make sure that the protocol is set to TFTP, SCP, or SFTP and try again. Otherwise, you'll be immediately able to upload the baseline version. So yeah, like I showed earlier, sometimes Telnet and SSH does not provide upload option. So you can edit the credential and change the protocol from SSH Telnet to SSH TFTP, SCP, or TFTP depending upon the devices. Also, sometimes even when SCP or TFTP protocol is used, the device vendor might support NCM, the device template, but the device template might not have the upload commands for the specific device. So you can clone or create a new device template, or you can contact NCM support. So sometimes you will have another failure, upload failure that can be due to a timeout value. You can go and check that, and also check the servers and the ports. So the next mechanism that is useful in safeguarding your environment is startup running sync. The reason why it's important is the startup and running configurations have to be in sync. If they're not in sync, the changes that are made to the running configurations will be lost upon rebooting your device. So, which is why you need to make sure the running and startup configurations are in sync. To make it easier for you, NCM what it will do is it will show whether there has been a conflict between the running and startup. If a conflict is detected, it means the startup configuration is not in sync with the running configuration. So simply you click on the configuration that shows this conflict, and you can click the three dot icon and give sync configuration. So immediately the configurations will be synced. So during this, you might come across errors which says the change happens, but the startup running conflict is not detected by NCM in real time. So this can be because of disabled real-time change detection. Make sure you enable change detection if syslog is supported. If syslog is not supported, the startup running conflict will be detected and reported after the next successful scheduled backup or manual backup operation. So next up is chain notifications and rollback. So in order to make sure you stay connected to your network environment, we have multiple chain notifications option in the form of email, SNMP trap, trouble tickets, and also syslog messages. There's also an option called rollback. For example, if you're going to carry out a change that might, put some of your core routers and firewalls into risk, what you can do is you can make sure that none of these changes get applied. So for that, you can just click on the rollback option. So go to config automation and click on change notification. So here you'll be able to see all the change notification profiles present. To create a new profile, click on plus, and this will allow you to create the notification name, description, etc. And also the type of notification you want for your convenience. So I'll show you an example. So I'm going on this example. So this is an email notification option where you can send an email to the specified email address here, and you can get the subject name to be in a certain format. You can also choose the variables from the drop down and the message that you want to receive. So you can also see there are options like SNMP traps, syslog messages, trouble tickets that can be assigned to a certain operator or someone working in your company in that particular arena. And you also have rollback option, which is going to help you roll back to a previous version. So click on next and choose devices on which you want to apply this notification profile to. And once you do that, you'll be able to save it. And if any change happens to these devices, you will immediately get the notification in the form of notification that you've opted for. So the next topic is export configuration. So let's say there is an outage, but still you can have all your network configuration files stored safely. And for that, what you can do is you can rely on expert configuration option. And I'll show this to you. Go to settings, click on global settings. Here you can see export configuration. So you can choose um, to get a notification if the export gets completed to a certain email ID. And you can also schedule how many times you want to run this export mechanism, and also choose the devices for which you want all the configurations to be exported. And once you do that, you can give export now, or you can choose the time at which you want to do this, and also you can see the destination for this particular action. So once you do that, click on save. So that's pretty much it about export configurations. Thanks a lot for joining us.